Hey guys, Coldbrew here. Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. Big patch update today for three legendary champions this time around. We're getting used to all these changes coming into the game for champions that were underwhelming in the past. They don't introduce any nerfs from what it seems to the game. And this time around, we have three of them, which were on the bottom round of the tier list in terms of their usefulness and how much often they were used. Okay, so now with these changes, I think they all have very solid buffs, and the tier list on who the worst legendary champion of the game will be changing around. I'll have to rethink of it and maybe make a video for the future, but let's get started with Tila the Lucky. Okay, this guy has definitely been used as food champion for Ronda to make an empowerment for Ronda. All right, I think this is a bad move by Plarium to introduce a buff to a champion that is so soon introduced as a sacrificial lamb, I want to say, for making Ronda more powerful. You make this guy more powerful now, and the people who sacrificed him kind of feel bad. So, kind of bad move, Plarium. I would say that's the negative of this. The positives, okay, his A2 now becomes an AoE skill, right? So this will have the block active skills on every single one of the enemies if you manage to land this skill. If you do have the accuracy, that is, you'll manage to get the block active skills on everybody. Remember that this guy's passive also is placing buffs on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each turn. All right, it's one of the following buffs though, so this even gets a change where he gets 2 different buffs and an increased accuracy buff is added to the list. This can be very solid, but it's very random. Okay, if you want to use him as a nuker, you can't depend on his passive for him to get the increased attack. You cannot depend on his passive to get the increased critical rate, so you can build him with 70% crit rate. All right, the things that you can not depend, you can't really use as a consistent nuker in raid, unfortunately. If this was changed in the way that if you have these buffs already, then the remainder of the buffs will be applied, that would be an amazing change to this skill and would make him very solid, since you would, let's say, let's have an increased attack already, let's have maybe a strengthened buff already, and then he would have a very strong chance of getting increased crit damage, increased crit rate, block damage, or the increased accuracy buff. Anyway, this is the change happening to the passive. This becomes an AoE skill. I doubt that it will have the same multiplier as it currently sits, with a 5.8 multiplier on the A2. I think that is a very high multiplier, which will not be kept for an AoE skill. This will undoubtedly drop maybe to a 5 or a 4.5, given that it does have the block active skills also in there. So I doubt that his multiplier will remain unchanged. It will be a happy surprise though if they keep it like so. And then his head ringer skill now also is changed, and what it does now is attacks one enemy has a 75% chance of placing a stun debuff for 2 turns. So this will come 100% chance to stun for 2 turns. That is huge in terms of control, and also stealing 50% of the target's current turn meter. Resets the cooldown of the skill if the target is killed. So basically this part is removed, and this part has a 25% chance becomes 75% chance, which is huge for Tila, given this is a 3-turn cooldown as well, and has a solid 5.5 multiplier. So I think as a nuker, I doubt he'll be the best. In terms of the banner lords, I mean, when you have Baron, you can't really compare a non-void to a void, really, in terms of making a stronger. But if you have them now, he's way more useful. So you can rethink on his uses everywhere, basically. Especially the block active skills can be huge for controlling enemies. Then we have Vergumkaar. Vergumkaar is very underwhelming. I think I have 2 of these guys just sitting in my vault, really. Only 2 changes happening to this guy. So Honored Ancient is his A2 skills. So what it now does is it places a 60% increased defense buff on all allies instead of allies who have debuffs removed. So this is big in terms of supporting the whole team without any conditionals. So it will happen regardless. And what else? The shield remains the same. And basically, yeah, it's just this. The increased defense goes on all allies, which is nice. It's a more guaranteed way to have this guy as a support for wherever you want to use him, instead of as a support that is, you know, conditional with debuffs removed. Then Crushing Trumbull, which is his A3. The change that now happens is that also has a 75% chance of placing 100% heal reduction debuff and a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns on an AoE. So this is pretty big. So instead of all of these conditionals, the heal reduction and decreased defense will be pretty much guaranteed, because I'm guessing this will also change and give him like 100% chance to apply them, because reducing it to a 75% chance to place the heal reduction is kind of bad. I doubt that they'll keep it like this. I think that they'll change this and also give him a chance here on the lower part. But yeah, that's what it is. I continued on reading. His level 2, level 3, and level 4 now change, with the level 1 giving the 20% damage boost, and then the remaining 2, level 3 and level 4, and now these give 100% chance. So yeah, that is a pretty cool change to Vergumkaar. I'm not personally going to use him, but I think he's going to be useful for making maybe my Lizardman Faction Wars team a little bit faster. Although with Dracomorph in there, how much faster can you go? Really, he does a lot in there with the defense down, poisons, just straight up a lot of damage. So which one do you think is the final one in terms of the buffs happening? It's the one and only Tila Goremane. Let me see on how many copies I've got of her, which I think I'm gonna empower her and make her a really solid champion to have available. I think I've got only 2 copies. Oh yeah, it's Krila that I have 3 copies of. Tila and Krila, yeah, easily mistaken. So Tila, if you've never used her before, now will be your time to use her. The big change that is happening to her is basically her A2 and A3 skills now are pretty much completely changed, with her A2 skill becoming an AoE HP burn debuff for 2 turns, which is amazing. Opens up Spider 20, Spider 25 for you in terms of more HP burners. The better it is, the more options there for players who manage to get this champion. And the A3 now becomes, by the way, the HP burn will have to be booked out to be 100% chance. And the A3 now becomes an insane skill, all right, which will be following up the A2. Attacks all enemies, 85% chance of increasing the duration of all HP burn debuffs on all enemies by 1 turn. That is not the only good thing. Also has an 85% chance of placing Leech and Hex for 2 turns. This is purely amazing for the Hydra, amazing for Spider. Anywhere that you can have some use for Hex, I love it in this game. Hex is very important against the Head of Mischief. So now Tila Goremane becomes, I would say, not an S tier, but an A tier in terms of the Hydra, and of course an S tier for Spider. She will be very similar to how we have the Undead Hordes and we have Crypt King Grawl. Very similar kit, so HP burn as an AoE and then extending the HP burn debuff, but this guy also has a freeze, so he's a little bit better. I would say he's way above Tila, but they have, you see the similarities in their kit. The freeze is what makes it a little bit different, but you might not even need the freeze in terms of the build that you're running. Freeze just helps you become more consistent and faster in your runs. So these were the changes, guys. These are just the 3 champions we're offered. We're gonna have more news for sure about the Titan event that is coming to the game. I hope that they give us these news before they go on for their Christmas holidays. Remember, Christmas for Ukrainians is on the 7th of the month, so by the end of this weekend. So before that, I hope you get more news, so we have stuff to cover for this month around. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate every one of you, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.